Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caden Kubler, and I appreciate you guys tuning in today. What a week of football we have ahead of us. Obviously, we saw the Packers versus the Commanders last night. I'll be breaking down this terrific game, and of course, I'll be going into the slate of games we have this weekend. We've got a great Week 3 slate of games ahead of us in college football starting tonight, and then on Sunday, we've got a terrific slate of Week 2 games in the NFL that I'll be breaking down for you guys. I am so excited that football is back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the best time of the year. And before we dive into this, let's just remember, we don't get too many of these, so we've got to enjoy every single one of these football weekends that we can because they go by so fast, ladies and gentlemen. And last night, we saw a terrific game on Thursday Night Football between the Green Bay Packers and between the Washington Commanders. I think a few things stuck out to me here when I initially was watching this game. Obviously, Green Bay got the job done in a dominant fashion. They ended up winning 27-18. Even though it was a 9-point game, that doesn't really tell the tale of this game. Green Bay was dominant throughout. I think Washington got a little bit of a garbage time touchdown per se at the very end. Green Bay looked really, really good. And this is now 2 games in the last 5 days where Green Bay has looked unbelievable. They've looked like they're on another level from every other team that they've played. Let's not forget, on Sunday, they dominated the Detroit Football Lions, a team that won 15 games last year and was the number 1 seed in the NFC. Then they come out on Thursday Night Football on a short week, missing 2 guys up front on that offensive line. They come out there and dominate and steamroll another playoff team last year in the Washington Commanders that went to the NFC Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, the Green Bay Packers are legit. They're for real. And this defense might be the best in football. And it's kind of out of nowhere. Like, yes, Micah Parsons is that good. This dude hasn't even played 100% of the snaps yet. I thought coming into this year, the Broncos were going to have the best defense in football. But the Packers right now, I think they have the best defense in football. They've played 2 terrific offenses, 2 of the best offenses in football, 2 offenses that averaged over 30 points per game last year. And Green Bay has combined held both of those teams to 31 total points, and a lot of those came in garbage time, ladies and gentlemen. This Packers team is unbelievable, and I really think right now, they are outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, the team to beat in the NFC. And I was talking about this on my radio show, Caden Kubler Sports Radio, what the rankings, the power rankings look like in the NFC. And I, at first, have of course, Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning defending champs. I don't think we can put Green Bay ahead of them quite yet just because they had that dominant run in the postseason last year to ultimately win the whole thing. But 2 weeks in, I've quickly vaulted the Packers up to number 2 over teams like the Los Angeles Rams, over the Commanders, over the Vikings. A lot of these really good teams in the NFC, the Packers have now jumped. They've looked unbelievable so far, and they are, 1A, 1B right there with the Philadelphia Eagles. But like I keep mentioning, this defense looks like the best in football. And Micah Parsons, we haven't even seen the best of him. You saw last night afterwards, the fans kind of mobbed the Thursday Night Football set after the game, and Micah Parsons came up and did this interview with all the guys, and everybody was chanting, "Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry." And I mean, literally, this defense is so ridiculous now that Micah Parsons is there. I mean, you saw just the offensive linemen in sheer panic when Micah Parsons would line up across from them. They would be jumping early, they'd be holding on to him, and Micah was getting after Jaden Daniels almost every single play he was out there on the field. And there was a vivid image that popped up in my head when I watched that Lions game last weekend where Micah Parsons chased down Jared Goff, got him when he was trying to escape. And the thing that I thought of the most was like, this is like a cheetah chasing down a gazelle hunting his prey. Micah Parsons is a freak athlete. The dude is unbelievable. And this Packers defense terrifies me. Now, on the other hand, Green Bay offensively is awesome. And I know Jaden Reed broke his collarbone. I know my thoughts and prayers are with him. He'll be back in 6 to 8 weeks. This team, once they figure it out, offensively. Like, the defense is great, and I think the offense has so much more room to get better, and they've been good, but I think they can get even better. The one thing that stands out to me is Jordan Love hasn't turned the football over yet. Jordan Love has been surgical. He's completing the ball at a high percentage, and that's what you want to see from Jordan Love more importantly than anything else. Can he get the ball out on time? Can he be accurate, and can he protect the football? And he's been great at that this season. Now, you want to see the receiving core take another step forward. Jaden Reed, I think right now is the best receiver on the team. They're going to get him back in 6 to 8 weeks. We still haven't seen Christian Watson yet, who's recovering from that torn ACL. Matthew Golden did not have a catch in last night's game. So you want to see some more consistency for sure from this receiving core, because that's the one component of this team where it's like if they can figure that out, this team is going to be unstoppable. Josh Jacobs last year was a workhorse. He kind of reemerged as a top running back in football once he left the Raiders. He's now with Green Bay, has found a new home, and he's really, really been good. The O-line, they'll have a longer week now with the game being on Thursday. They'll have a longer week to get healthy, get ready to go for week 3, because this defense in this division is going to be a brutal one every single week. The conference is tough. And this was one of the reasons why I didn't have the Lions making the playoffs, because you have so many great teams in the NFC. You have so much depth. And for Green Bay to start out this hot, to beat 2 former playoff teams, it gives me a lot of hope in this squad. They're a shoo-in to make the postseason right now. And it's just about what is this team going to be as a whole once they put it all together, because I still think they can get so much better. And that's scary to say, because when you beat the Detroit Lions, who won 15 games in a dominant fashion last weekend, you open up some eyes. Then you, on a short week, go out and beat the Washington Commanders, who made it to the NFC Championship, down 2 offensive linemen. Jaden Reed breaks his collarbone, I want to say in the first quarter, and you still go out there and steamroll them like that. You're putting the NFL world on notice, and that's exactly what's going through my head as I watch Green Bay play every single week. They look awesome. Jordan Love and this offense are only going to get better and better and better. And at the end of the day, what I'm thinking about right now is, what can Jordan Love be in the postseason? The 3 interceptions last year in the wild card game, that's going to sit heavy on him, but I believe that he's going to bounce back. As I've been saying now since about May, I said that Jordan Love is a dark horse MVP candidate, and I don't think he's a dark horse anymore. We all understand that to win the MVP in the modern day NFL, you have to parlay winning with your statistics, and I think right now he's got good enough statistics to ultimately get to this point where he can not only win the MVP, but where he can go get this team over the hump and win a Super Bowl ultimately, and that's what the Packers are expecting. That's why they made this move to go get Micah Parsons. I am all in on this Packers team. I was genuinely impressed. On the other side for the Commanders, this was a disappointing outing. I think overall you wanted to see a lot better performance from Jaden Daniels in this offense. They just didn't look to be in sync. And the main thing that I've just tried to hammer home with everybody, like, hey, you've got Jaden Daniels for 4 more years on this rookie contract. Pay everybody. Just send the house at everybody else. They trade for Deebo Samuel. They extend Terry McLaurin. They upgrade this offensive line. They're able to pay Bobby Wagner and some of these dudes on that defensive line a lot more money ultimately. So when I see that, I'm like, okay, they're going all in. They're seeing what the Niners did with Brock Purdy, and they're going to do this now with Jaden Daniels. So I think this is a really encouraging thing overall for the Commanders. But you see this in week 2, and I'm like, man, they just didn't look good. And I don't know if that's because they're starting slow, because Terry was holding out to get that new contract. They didn't play much in the preseason. Like, I don't know why they're starting so slow, but the offense did not look good whatsoever. And that's the bread and butter of this team. That's why Cliff Kingsbury was sought after to be a head coach again, because in Jaden Daniels' rookie season, he's putting up these historic numbers, and they were like the cardiac Commanders. Jaden Daniels could put up near 40 points per game with this team, and they would beat everybody. That's how they beat the Lions in the NFC playoff race. And right now with the Commanders, they don't look like the same team they were last year, and I don't want to overreact. Obviously, they're 1-1. It's going to be a tough schedule. If they want to win this, ultimately the division, it's going to be really tough, and they've got to be a lot better overall. But I was just disappointed with the performance I saw last night. You want to see the O-line ultimately protect Jaden Daniels a lot more. He had to get rid of the ball really early because obviously you've got the gazelle hunter, the cheetah that is Micah Parsons coming after you every single play that he's out there on the field. And I really was impressed with the Packers secondary on top of it. They just had sticky coverage all night long. Terry McLaurin didn't get many opportunities. Deebo Samuel didn't get many opportunities. And I know it's 27-18, but ladies and gentlemen, that just doesn't paint the picture and tell the true story of how lopsided that game was last night. The Green Bay Packers flat out dominated the Washington Commanders, and now Washington's got to go back to the drawing board. And I think they're going to be just fine. Jaden Daniels is a borderline top 5 quarterback in football. He is, I don't know if there's a quarterback that's his age that truly is going to be so good and has so much potential. The dude is unbelievable. I love what Jaden Daniels can do ultimately for this for this Commanders team, And they've got a lot of work to do, though. They've got a lot of work to do, and nobody is denying that. Now, we've got a massive week 2 slate ahead of us, and I'm going to break down, each game. I'll give you guys an official pick for each game. Last week I did pretty good. Got most of my picks right. And I think there's a few games that I'm really looking forward to. The slate is not nearly as good as it was last weekend. Last weekend it was just an absolute treat. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way that I do in terms of how the NFL schedules these games, because I'm looking at the Chiefs and Eagles at 1:00 Pacific. And I'm saying, why is that not the Sunday Night Football game? Why is the Super Bowl rematch not the Sunday Night Football game? It's the Falcons and the Vikings. And I get you've got the National Championship rematch from a few years ago where Michigan and Washington matched up, and you've got Michael Penix Jr. with the Falcons now and J.J. McCarthy with the Minnesota Vikings. You've got these two in a nice little National Championship rematch on Sunday Night Football. Let's make that an afternoon game. Roger Goodell, NFL, whoever is in charge of that final decision for the schedule. Like, why do we not want Patrick Mahomes and the Philadelphia Eagles to be on primetime in that NFC I've been waiting all day for Sunday night game? I mean, I want Carrie Underwood to get me fired up for Chiefs Eagles, not for Falcons Vikings. No offense. And then you look at the next week and it's like, okay, what's Carrie singing me to next Sunday night? It's the Chiefs and Giants. I don't know what the disconnect is there. That's very confusing to me. And there's a lot better games than that. I mean, Bengals Vikings is going to be an absolute banger next week. Rams Eagles banger. Broncos Chargers. Those would all be a lot more enticing of games to watch on Sunday Night Football. But I'm not complaining about Falcons Vikings. I'm not sure why we're not putting the Super Bowl rematch on Sunday Night Football. But let's go through the slate. Let's talk about these games. Who's got to win? What are our major overreactions? I want to start with the 49ers versus the Saints. This is a really, really interesting game all of a sudden because you have a Niners team that, dude, they can't catch a break. They cannot catch a break on the injury front. Brock Purdy now is out for 2 to 5 weeks. They haven't officially put him on the IR because when you put him on the IR, you're out for a minimum of 4 weeks. They did, however, put George Kittle on the injured reserve for a hamstring injury that he suffered in the first quarter in the Seahawks game. You saw him without his pads on in the second half. I mean, he was in street clothes. Shout out Charles Barkley and Anthony Davis for that one, but he was in street clothes in the second half. And the Niners really got a massive win. I know it was only week 1, and however you feel about the Seattle Seahawks, this was a huge game for the San Francisco 49ers, especially with the injury bug that's now hitting this team. Luckily, they play the Saints in week 2 on the road. The Saints are not a good football team. The Niners defense has got to be able to hold it down again. They did a really good job on the road against Seattle overall. A lot of people are excited to see this Sam Darnold era start in Seattle, and it just wasn't great overall, but I think that's more of a testament to what Robert Saleh is now bringing with the San Francisco 49ers. They've got a young defense now, Nick Bosa with that game-winning strip sack. He looked great last weekend, but that defense is going to have to come up big, and we understand that the Saints are probably the worst team in football if we're being real. And I'm sorry, New Orleans fans, that's not a shot. I'm just trying to be realistic here. You guys are probably the worst team in football. The Niners have got to take care of this one, and you would have loved to be healthy. But the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, they've got a former Pro Bowler, a former first-round pick who took the New England Patriots to a 12-win season and a playoff game in his rookie year. Let's not disrespect the greatness of Mac Jones. Let's not disrespect the greatness of Macaroni and Cheese Jones, Big Mac Jones, because Mac Jones can get it done. He can get it done for San Francisco. I remember when they drafted Trey Lance, a few people in that organization actually wanted Mac Jones over Trey Lance. They've got their guy. They've got their guy behind Brock. While Brock's getting healthy, while he's in the incubator, you've got Mac Jones ready to go. No George Kittle, it's a big loss, but at least you've still got CMC, Ricky Pearsall. This was the dude that I was talking about so much this offseason. I'm like, man, he really played good in the second half of the year. If he is buried behind Ayuk and Juwan Jennings, like Pearsall, he's a stud, and he had over 100 yards last week. I was really impressed with him. Jennings is going to have to be a lot bigger of a factor for this Niners team overall. You just hate to see them getting hit with the injury bug this early. I've ultimately got the Niners winning this one. Let's get dirty here. The Miami Dolphins, I don't even know how to utter these words. I mean, they're a team that is on the verge of imploding. They've already had a players only meeting, and we're 1 week into the season. And that is a very, very bad sign, ladies and gentlemen, to have a players only meeting already 1 week into the season. I mean, oh my goodness. And guess what? I'm going to wear it with a badge of honor, but I took the Miami Dolphins to make the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. You've got 4 new teams that make it into the postseason every single year for the last 35 years. I thought for sure Miami making it into the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years with a tremendous offense, with just a dynamic receiving core around Tua Tagovailoa. I thought for sure they would ultimately cook something up offensively and get themselves into the playoffs. And now after watching week 1, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. But guess what? I'm going back to the well. I'm sticking with my big guns. And if I'm going down with the ship, I'm swimming with the Dolphins, because Miami is going to beat the New England Patriots, ladies and gentlemen, in week 2. This is a dirty, dirty game. And I just look, how is Miami favored by 1.5 realistically? How is Miami favored in this game against New England? It doesn't make sense to me. It puzzles me. But this has got to be like a sneaky thing where Vegas is trying to trick everybody. So I'm going with Miami to win this one. I'm going down with the ship, and I'm swimming with the Dolphins. I like Tua Tagovailoa to have a massive bounce back, because if this dude has another 3-turnover game, it's time to go to the Quinn Ewers well. I mean, you got to let him spin it at that point, because you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. You've got too many weapons out there. Everybody's going to get fired if they don't figure it out. Everybody's going to get fired. Chris Greer, Tua's going to get traded. Everybody's gone. Mike McDaniel, Quinn Ewers, get ready. Your number may be called this year, so we'll see what happens. But, we've got Bob for Apples saying that the Dolphins are going to win the division. That's bold right there. I wish I had that type of boldness in my life. I thought I was bold enough taking them to make the playoffs. To win the division, Bob, that's a big one. I'm glad I'm supporting Brutal Talent over here. That's his team. Brutal. Sorry about that, man. Rams Titans. Another game that's interesting. I really like Cam Ward. I think he's going to be a superstar. I really do. I was so impressed with his game last week. I think he really, really played well, considering that his receivers were dropping every single pass that hit their hands. Cam Ward played a heck of a game, and he probably went up against the best defense in football with that Broncos stingy D. He looked good, and he had the Tennessee Titans in a position to potentially win that game. So I think Cam Ward now in his home opener, I think they can make this close against the Rams. And I think the Rams, you guys know, if you're familiar with Caden's Corner, Caden Kubler Sports Radio at all, I'm all in on the Rams. I think this team can win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl ultimately. But the Titans can make this one interesting. They're not as bad as everyone thinks. I think the Rams are ultimately going to win this one. But I like the Titans to make it close. I think Cam Ward is an absolute dog. I love the videos of his dad just freaking out on the sideline when the receivers would drop the passes. The dude was leaning over the rails, about to have a heart attack. I thought that was classic. But Cam Ward, he's an unbelievable talent, unbelievable player, and it's only a matter of time before this team eventually figures it out ultimately. So we'll see. I like the Rams to get this one done. They move on to 2-0. Let's go to the Bears versus the Lions. This is a massive game, probably the biggest game in terms of storylines in this 10 a.m. window overall. Of course, we all understand this is going to be the Ben Johnson homecoming game. Ben Johnson, of course, formerly of the Detroit Football Lions, the offensive coordinator for them last year, was the reason why this team was so explosive offensively, and you saw that kind of lackluster performance from the Lions last week. I mean, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra in fantasy, and they didn't do me any favors there. I ultimately lost to a familiar foe in my fantasy league. But overall, I mean, I just think Ben Johnson and this Bears team, they've got a lot to prove. Both of these teams have got a lot to prove overall. I think Caleb Williams has got to play a lot better, and I'm defending him. It's only week one. I think that's what gets misconstrued in this entire equation when you look at the Chicago Bears, when you look at Caleb Williams, when you look at the massive expectations that have been put on his shoulders. And I do agree that some of those expectations and some of the criticism that's been around him, it's fair. It's fair. When you're the number one overall pick, when you're touted as a generational talent, you need to live up to that, and you need to show that. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, can we have some patience in this society? I'd love, just as a society, not only patience, we need to just come together as a society and love one another. But we need to have some patience as a society. Like, I know we look at Bo Nix, we look at CJ Stroud, we look at Jaden Daniels in the rookie years, just absolutely killing it. Like, Caleb Williams, this is week one of year two. Let's give the dude a little bit of time. Let's get him a little bit of time. Now, what pops out really with me is, like, I want to see him get better at becoming more accurate, getting more, instilled in the offense with the quick passes and the quick game. Like, we haven't seen that yet from Caleb. And there were a few throws that really stood out to me. Obviously, he misses DJ Moore on that touchdown throw earlier on in the game. He's got a wide open, I think it was Colston Loveland or Cole Kmet, one of the white tight ends over the middle. Absolutely missed him. And then he's got a third and one on a screen pass and throws it way behind Roma Dunze. He catches it and it turns into a 4th and 5. I think there were a lot of misses. He left a lot of yards out there on the football field, and ultimately the Bears should have shut the door on the Vikings a long time ago. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, we saw this Bears team let the Vikings hang around. JJ McCarthy was going so poorly. The start to the JJ McCarthy era was abysmal, ladies and gentlemen, and they just let him hang around, do their thing, and then all of a sudden the Vikings come back and win. And you're looking at now 2 0-1 teams in a divisional matchup between the Bears and Lions. I ultimately like the Lions to get this one done here. I know nobody wants to hear that if you're a Chicago Bears fan overall, but I like the Lions to get this one done. I just think the offense is going to be a lot better. If there's one thing I know about Dan Campbell is he's the ultimate motivator of men. If there's one thing I would say, I would love to have like an alarm clock with Dan Campbell just saying the most heinous things. Get up out of bed. It's time to go. Like, Dan Campbell could motivate me to make a sandwich. Like, that dude he's the ultimate motivator and leader of men. I think the Lions are going to be ready to go. I like them to bounce back in a big time way here. Let's go to a game that I'm not going to spend too much time on here. Giants-Cowboys. I ultimately think the Cowboys win this one here. I talked about it on the stream last week. I think ultimately the Cowboys are an underrated football team. Now, by no means do I think they're a shoo-in to make the playoffs. I do like the confidence that they showed against the Eagles on opening night. I really thought they played a good football game. And I know everybody kind of counted this team out coming into this year, all the Parsons speculation, all of the Parsons noise. Nobody gave this team any bit of a shot, but it's like 2 years ago, Dak Prescott came in second in the MVP voting. CeeDee Lamb, if he catches a few more passes against the Packers, or against the Eagles, excuse me, they probably win that game. And I just want to see George Pickens get more involved in the offense. I think the Cowboys take care of the Giants here, and they tie up this schedule here. They go 1-1. They're back to 500. This is a game I'm really excited for, ladies and gentlemen. The Jaguars going on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of an interesting point spread here. Bengals are a 3.5-point favorite. I thought maybe it'd be a little higher. I think Cincinnati is a really, really good football team. I really do. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of this take. I think if I'm going to overreact at something in week one, I think if the Bengals figure it out offensively, if they figure it out offensively, because the defense looked good last week, if they figure it out offensively, which they will, maybe the best offense in football last year, if they figure it out offensively, when they figure it out offensively, they can win the Super Bowl. They can win the Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. Now, last year, that defense was so bad. And in the second half, the Bengals scored 3 points against the Browns. And, whether you want to say, oh, it's the Browns, they absolutely stink. Guess what? The Browns are an in-division rival. They've got a great defense. Stefanski is a tremendous head coach. He's had so much success against Joe Burrow and the boys. This is a massive win. So often we see the Bengals start slow, start to get in a rhythm as the season progresses. The fact that they're 1-0 is massive. The schedule gets tougher. They've got a really, really tough stretch in the middle of the schedule. You'd love to see them beat Jacksonville here, and I believe they beat them. But I want to know what you guys think. Like, if the Bengals realistically, when they turn it on offensively, if the defense plays like this, I think they can win the Super Bowl. I really do. And the reason why is because Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback on the planet. And I just feel like we've gotten robbed over the last 2 years of seeing this Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes AFC championship matchup. Like, I love those matchups so much. And Joe Burrow, at the end of the day, is the only quarterback in the AFC that's been able to beat Patrick Mahomes. He went on the road in Arrowhead and beat Mahomes. You've got all these great quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And guess who the only man who's been able to beat the big bad wolf in the AFC is? Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, in my opinion, if they can win week 2 against the Jaguars, they're 2-0. All of a sudden, it's like, hold on. The defense is coming along here. You go on the road against the Vikings in week 3. That's not an easy one. Week 4, you've got the Broncos on the road. It's a winnable game. Then you've got the Lions at home. Then you've got the Packers on the road. And then you've got the Steelers. I mean, that's a brutal, brutal gauntlet 5-week stretch. But realistically, if we're sitting here telling ourselves the Bengals are 5-2 after that stretch, they've got a decently easy schedule the rest of the year. And if there's one thing I know about the AFC, it's a gauntlet. It's brutal. You've got so many great teams that have tremendous home field advantage. You don't want to go through Arrowhead in the AFC, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want to go through Buffalo. You don't want to go through Baltimore. Cincinnati, in my opinion, has got to really capitalize on these early games. Get hot, stay hot, beat Jacksonville. Don't make it a tight one. Don't lose by a field goal, because they almost did that to the Browns. Luckily, they found the dude at Chuck E. Cheese and he missed an extra point in a field goal. But like, you can't do that against Jacksonville. And I know maybe people are expecting Jacksonville after beating Carolina. You beat Carolina. What are we doing here? You beat Carolina. Carolina might be the worst team in the NFL, if I'm being completely honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. They beat Carolina. Like, do we want to give them that much credit? I know everybody's all the way back on Trevor and Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. They're good, sure. But if the Bengals can figure it out offensively, they can shred that defense, in my opinion. So the Bengals have got to stay hot and really rekindle that offense. They will. I like them to go to 2-0 and really start to fire on all cylinders before they hit this tough part of their schedule. All right, Arizona versus the Carolina Panthers. Arizona by 1 million. Not going to spend any time on that one. That's a joke. All right, we got a few more games here in the 10 o'clock window. We've got a lot of games in the 10 o'clock window, it feels like. All right, Bills, Jets. Bills going on the road against the New York Football Jets. Buffalo is a 6.5-point favorite after that tremendous Sunday Night Football game this past week. That was just peak cinema. Obviously, when you've got Carrie Underwood setting the tone, I've been waiting all day for Sunday night, and you get Lamborghini Lamar Jackson against Mr. Josh Allen, you're going to get some great football. And that's what we got. So we now get the Bills against the Jets. The Jets, in my opinion, looked good last weekend. I was really impressed with the game overall. Now, I know you lose at the very end, but I thought Justin Fields played some good football, and I'm really rooting for Justin Fields. He's back with his Ohio State teammate and, of course, Garrett Wilson. I'm rooting for the Jets, man. I hope they can rekindle it. I love what Aaron Glenn's message has been to everybody. Like, hey, we might not be a Super Bowl contender. We might not even be a playoff team, but I want the people of New York to at least have some pride for their football team, because they haven't had that over the last few years, and that's the genuine truth to the situation here with New York. So I think you can have some pride if you're the New York Jets fan base right now. After that game against Pittsburgh, I know you kind of get torched. The Steelers really did some good things offensively, and we'll talk about them next, playing the Seahawks. But I think the Jets can keep this one close. Maybe they can cover. I like the Bills to win this one. It was interesting. I was talking on a podcast with two of my buddies. Shout out Jack Cody and Guru Griff. When we got in a debate about can Josh Allen realistically sustain this level of MVP play throughout the entirety of the season. And I was debating, yes. I think Josh Allen can play like this every single week. I think he can put the team on his back and just go berserk every single week. And we saw it last year. That's why he won the MVP. I don't see why he can't do it again. I'm in favor of Josh Allen just steamrolling everybody and saying, I'm better than you, I'm better than you, and I'm better than you. And I'm going to get back to the AFC Championship where, hopefully we can take down the big bad wolf, but I haven't been able to do it. Seahawks, Steelers. Big one here for the Seahawks. You do not want to go into this 0-2 hole so early on. We all know the statistics, how hard it gets to truly make the playoffs or do anything. When you start 0-2, this is a big one for Seattle. They had some high expectations. I remember all these people in the media saying that Seattle was going to make the playoffs. I never saw it. I still don't see it, and I'm concerned for this team. Pittsburgh right now, 3.5-point favorite. Another low total, 39.5. I don't know if this is going to be a shootout. Seattle's offense didn't look good last week, and they played a 49ers team that I think was a lot better defensively, but overall, they didn't look good last week, in my opinion. If there's one thing that I want to see the most from this game overall, it's the Steelers' defense come to play. I think if that defense can rekindle some of the mojo and juice they've had over the last 2 to 3 years, the Steelers can, dare I say it, become a Super Bowl contender. And now a lot of things have got to happen in order for that to really come to fruition here. But Aaron Rodgers was cooking. He was cooking with some gas last weekend. Nearly 250 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, completed 22 out of 32 passes, no picks. Rodgers, did some really, really good things in my opinion. Now the O-line's got to be a lot better. He got sacked 4 times. You just never want to see that. They've got to keep the old man healthy. If we're being honest, they've got to keep the older dude healthy. But a great win for the Steelers overall last week over the Jets. I think they can definitely contend if they start to put the pieces together defensively, which this is the most expensive defense in football. You got Jalen Ramsey, who made that huge game-winning tackle against New York last week. Of course, you've got TJ Watt, who's the second highest paid non-QB in the history of the NFL. And you've got Cam Hayward. So you've got some really, really good pieces defensively for this Steelers team. I like them to win this one here. For final game in the 10 o'clock window, won't spend too much time on this one here. We've got the Ravens hosting the Cleveland Browns. Baltimore, an 11.5-point favorite. Baltimore, of course, really, really dropped the ball on Sunday Night Football. I mean, they were up like 15 points with 4 minutes. I was about ready to turn the TV off and say it's time to go to bed and reset for the week. Josh Allen said, I'm the MVP for a reason, Lamar. I know everybody was upset this offseason that you didn't get it. I'm the MVP, bro. I'm the MVP. And that's exactly what he did. He was awesome. I just can't say enough good things about Josh Allen. I mean, what an offseason it's been for him, first of all, leading into this game. But for the Ravens, how do you drop that? How do you drop that? And it's a long season. You don't want to overreact too much about anything. That's the toughest thing ultimately, is like, how do you keep that same mindset when you lose a 15-point game, or when you choke a 15-point game, I should say, against a team that you lost to in the playoffs last year, a team that you were visualizing all offseason, knowing, okay, we just lost to this team. Mark Andrews drops the 2-point conversion. Lamar turns the ball over 2 times. And you lose, and you have an opportunity to go to the AFC Championship and redeem yourself against the team that beat you a few years ago. Or it was a year before, actually. It's just a tough one. It's a tough one for Baltimore, and I still think they're going to be there at the end of the day. They'll be there in January. They'll still win 12, 13 games. Derrick Henry, that dude is a freak of nature. Running back longevity has not been something we've seen much of recently in the NFL, and Derrick Henry has just been a man on a mission. Every single time I'd see him get the ball and break through the first initial gap, I'd just start saying chugga, 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 chugga. The dude was like a freight train, an unstoppable freight train. I think they destroy the Browns, quite frankly, get back on track. All right, we've got 3 games left in our beautiful Sunday slate. Broncos Colts. This has got to be one of the weirdest games I'm looking at right now. And I say to myself, what does Vegas know here? Denver, 1.5 favorite on the road against the Colts. Everybody thought the Colts were trash coming into this year. Nobody said the Colts were any good. And the Broncos, everybody's already crowning them the offseason champions, best defense in football. They're going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to make this huge jump. They're going to win the AFC West. They struggled against the Titans last week, ladies and gentlemen. They hosted the Titans, and they struggled. Cam Ward, rookie quarterback, first overall pick, nearly came into Denver and snatched their chain. Nearly snatched the chain. Broncos made the playoffs last year. This is an interesting game. I like the Broncos to win it, but I look at the spread and I'm like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. And the Colts looked good last weekend. I mean, they dominated Miami. And then it's like Miami's a favorite against New England. This is when Vegas will get you. I don't know. I don't know. I think ultimately the Broncos win this one. But if the Colts, are the Colts the Saints of last year, where the Saints won 2 games in a row where they just dominated? I can't remember what the 2 teams they played were, but they dominated 2 teams in a row. I want to say they beat the Falcons or something one week, or I don't even know. They were 2-0 and everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Saints are Super Bowl contenders. And then they lost 14 straight games. So maybe maybe it's kind of a rinse and repeat cycle with the Colts here. We'll see. But this is a really interesting game. I'll ultimately take the Broncos. We'll see what happens. For the game of the week, should be on Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs is still the Chiefs against the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The Birds will go on the road against the Chiefs. The Birds are a 1.5 point favorite. This is an interesting one. I saw some maybe optimistic news that Xavier Worthy is a potential. There's a small chance that he plays. There's a potential that he plays. We'll see. They're going to need him. I don't think this Eagles secondary looked very good against Dallas in week 1. And now you're talking about the receiver fall off from CeeDee and George Pickens to, just Marquise Hollywood Brown and Tyquan Thornton now. I mean, that is a big fall off. I like the Chiefs to win this. I do. It was funny. I first of all said the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl to start the year. They lose to the Chargers. Everyone starts to head top me. Everyone's dunking on me. Oh, you don't know ball. I doubled down Saturday morning. Chiefs is still the Chiefs. They'll win the Super Bowl. If I'm tripling down right here, the Chiefs is still the Chiefs. They'll beat the Eagles. And if they lose this game, ladies and gentlemen, I will quadruple down that the Kansas City Chiefs will still win the Super Bowl. Listen, it's a brutal schedule. If they get in the dance, if the Chiefs are a 6 or a 7 seed, they can make a run. You're not telling me you want to play Mahomes. Come on, you don't want to do it. If the Ravens have got the 2 seed, and you're telling me they're hosting the 7-seeded Chiefs in the first round, you feel good about yourself? Because I think number 15 is going to go in there and burn it down. That's how great he is. I mean, I'm tripling down, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are hearing it right now. I like the Chiefs to still be the Chiefs at the end of the day. I like them to win this one. Obviously, having Xavier Worthy would be a massive, massive help. We will see. Chiefs is still the Chiefs. Get a little upset here at home in the home opener. Sunday Night Football. Vikings hosting the Falcons. Really, really interesting one here. One of those games where I look at the spread again and I'm like, Minnesota, 3.5 point favorite. Really, really emotional win against the Bears, obviously, on Monday Night Football. McCarthy, unbelievable performance. Shorter week for Sunday Night Football. Give me the Falcons. Give me the Falcons to win this game as an underdog. I don't know why. Something about Michael Penix Jr. is, my spidey senses are almost tingling right now. I feel like Michael Penix Jr., the lefty gunslinger, trying to get revenge from losing to JJ in the national championship. I like the Falcons to come into Minnesota after the Vikings got a really emotional win. I like Michael Penix Jr. to come in there, put on a show. Bijan is elite. You've got Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You've got a plethora of weapons. The defense is good. The Falcons ultimately lost on a game-winning kick last week where Koo had a kick to tie the game. At the very end, he misses. Buccaneers win. I like Michael Penix Jr. to get this one done here. I really do. I think not enough people are remembering this too about Penix. I think this is kind of something that goes underneath the radar when you're looking at Michael Penix Jr. This dude's only started four games in the NFL, which is crazy to me. He's only started 4 games. Last year was his rookie season. He barely played. And now we get to see a tremendous game now with him on Sunday Night Football. And I'm so fired up for it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fired up for it. I think we've got just a tremendous matchup between 2 great young quarterbacks in the same rookie class last year, of course. Give me the Falcons. Give me the Falcons to pull off an upset here. All right. We've got a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Buccaneers, Texans, Chargers, Raiders. No official picks will be made until Monday. You guys got to tune into the stream on Monday. Bob for Apples has reminded me about an absolute super fight this weekend, and I wish I was wearing my Terrence Crawford shirt. Terrence Crawford against Saul Canelo Alvarez. We've got a big one, folks. Maybe the biggest fight in the last 10 years in boxing. You've got Canelo Alvarez with 63 wins. You've got Terrence Bud Crawford with 41 wins. 41 have tried, 0 have won. Terrence Crawford, one of the best ever if he wins this fight, in my opinion, going up 2 weight classes to 168 to the super middleweight division. We've seen Terrence Crawford counted out so many times throughout his career. I think that's the thing that I'm looking at the most when I look at this fight. I look at Terrence Crawford, a guy that has just been religiously counted out, different big boxers ducking him, whether it's Manny Pacquiao, whether it's Floyd Mayweather. And I can see that to a certain degree where you're like, you don't want to fight the up-and-coming absolute scrapper who's gonna take your soul. I mean, he's that good. You don't want to go up against that guy. And at the same time, I think that's why Terrence Crawford ultimately was like, I'm not going to entertain the Boots Ennis fight, and I think he's going to say, you know what, I want Canelo, and he ended up getting him. The Turkey dude put this fight together, and we've got an absolute banger, ladies and gentlemen. I think Terrence Crawford is a slight underdog here, a plus 150 underdog. I like my boy Terrence Bud Crawford to pull this one off. I think he is going to go down as the best boxer of this generation if he wins. We've got to have a serious conversation about him being the best boxer, or a top 5 boxer, in the history of boxing. He's already become the first male boxer in the history of the 4-belt era to be undisputed in 3 different weight classes. I don't know if that came across to you guys. The first male boxer in the history of boxing to be undisputed in 3 different weight classes. And now he's going up 2 more weight classes. This dude's like, I'm coming for everybody. I'm coming for everybody in every single weight class. Whoever's your top dog, I'm better. And the funny thing is, people said this when he was fighting Earl Spence. They're like, oh, Earl Spence is bigger. He's gonna throw harder punches. He's the heavier fighter. Terrence Crawford's got no chance. Crawford comes in there. Whoo. He retired that man. It was that dominant. Knocked him down 3 times. TKO, I want to say in the 9th round. I happened to be at the fight. It was pure dominance, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not the first time, like I said, that Terrence Crawford has been counted out in his career. He's being counted out again. I love it. I love the opportunity for Crawford to prove the world wrong. Even if you're a casual boxing fan, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is something that, you should tune into. Everybody's got Netflix. This is something you should tune into because it's like, you're witnessing 2 of the greatest boxers of this generation, and whoever wins, they've put the cherry on top on their resume. I like my guy Terrence Bud Crawford to pull this one out. Let's move into week 3 of the college football season. We've got some big games. Let's first of all go through the AP rankings that have come out. We've got some big moves. Arizona State unfortunately took a massive loss at the very end of the game against Mississippi State. They are now out of the top 25. Michigan, of course, lost to Oklahoma. Michigan now drops to 23. I think Oklahoma looked really, really good. It's Money Mateer season up in Norman, Oklahoma. They are now up to 13th in the nation. And Clemson, we're going to start with them. They struggled last weekend again against Troy. They lose ultimately. They choke that week 1 lead against LSU at home in Death Valley, and they play Troy at home, and like they're down 16-0 at a certain point, and I'm like, am I watching the same Clemson team that I picked to go to the national championship that my buddy Bruce Feldman, who's been covering the sport for 20 plus years, said was going to win the national championship, and who a lot of people said, was going to be a really, really good football team this year. Cade Klubnik win the Heisman. I mean, what is going on with this team? What's going on? They're now 12th in the country, and they're going on the road against Georgia Tech, and they're a 2.5-point favorite. This seems like a really, really weird line, ladies and gentlemen. I'm nervous for Clemson here. You never want to say, is it already do or die for Clemson? Because it feels like the ACC is a lot better than everyone had forecasted. Like, you've got Florida State now, who was not ranked to start the season, and now they're 10th in the country. You've got to go on the road against Louisville. That's not going to be an easy one. Duke, I know they just got boat raced by Illinois, but they showed some flashes. This is going to be tough for Clemson, and it feels like if they don't win it, their season might just spiral out of control and might go downhill really, really fast, which sounds crazy to say because we're this early into the season. But what have I seen positive from this team so far? You lose to LSU, you choke a lead against LSU where you should have won that game. You had so many opportunities to put them away, and LSU just kept fighting, kept battling. But you're like, okay, LSU's a dang good football team. Then they almost lose to Troy. They're down 16 points. I'm like, this is the same old Clemson team. Same old Clemson team. They did not look good offensively. The defense was all right. Same old Clemson team. Give me Georgia Tech. Give me Georgia Tech. I know I picked Clemson to make the national championship. I'm honestly pivoting here. I've been extremely disappointed with what I've seen from this team. Give me Georgia Tech. Give me Georgia Tech to pull off a massive upset. I love it. I absolutely love it. In our 12:30 game, we get an absolute banger. Tennessee Volunteers hosting the Georgia Bulldogs, 15-6. Georgia, a 3.5-point favorite on the road. A great story coming out of Tennessee with Joey Aguilar ultimately taking over Nico Iamaleava's spot as the guy. We all understand that Nico transfers to UCLA. Joey Aguilar takes that starting spot, and the Volunteers have been a hot football team. They put up 72 last week. They dominate Syracuse in week 1, 45-26. On the other hand, you've got a Georgia team that really is a sleeping giant, in my opinion. I haven't heard one peep about Georgia all year long. Gunnar Stockton is a guy with moxie. If there's not enough moxie up in Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, he's the reason why, because he's got all the moxie in the world. Comes in the SEC championship at halftime, after halftime, to start the second half, I should say, when Beck tears his UCL, hurts his UCL. At the very end, he's thrown that Hail Mary. He just gets absolutely clobberhoused. Gunnar Stockton comes in and beats Texas to win the SEC championship. Now, yes, they lose to Notre Dame in that terrific defense where really that was kind of his first ever start in college football. He was the guy coming into this year. I think Georgia's got a tremendous defense, and I'm really curious to see what they look like. I like Georgia to win this one, but I could totally see Tennessee doing it. I think Tennessee's got a great story. I loved the principle that Josh Heupel lied down with, saying, hey, Nico, listen, bro, you want more money? Kick rocks. Kick rocks, sucker. Because we've got enough. We've got enough here. We're not starting this precedent in college football. We want Joey Aguilar. He's our guy. What a story this would be. What a story this would be if Joey Aguilar, who played community college football, beats the Georgia Bulldogs, one of the best defenses in the nation, this would be must-see TV. All right, let's go through some of our other big games, another ranked matchup. We've got South Florida going on the road against Miami. This South Florida team has been an absolute buzzsaw to start the season. They beat Boise State, who was obviously in the college football playoff last year, ranked 25 to start. Just eviscerated them, 34-7. And then we got Florida, who they beat on the road, 13th in the country. They pull it off in the very end, and now they get Miami on the road. Big spread here, 17.5. I think that's kind of indicative of how they feel about Miami. Vegas does. I think Miami's also a really good football team. I like Miami to pull this one out here. You know, I want to put my insider hat on real quick because I don't normally have the opportunity to do this. But my inside sources are telling me let's go to this Arkansas Ole Miss game. Ole Miss 2-0, 17th in the country, hosting Arkansas. Only a 6.5 point favorite. Kind of an interesting short line. My sources are telling me, my inside sources are telling me in Mississippi that Austin Simmons is not going to get the start this weekend, and that they're going to go to their backup quarterback that is named Trinidad Chambliss. Sorry about that little kind of hesitation there. Trinidad Chambliss. I've heard he's going to get the start. Now, I want to put my insider hat on. Nobody has this information. Nobody's talked about it. It's nowhere to be found right now. I'm breaking this news right now on Caden's Corner. I broke it on Twitter 2 days ago. Austin Simmons is not getting the start this weekend. He's getting benched for Trinidad Chambliss. I'm breaking this right now. Let's see what happens. I'm hoping that my source says will be correct. But I think Ole Miss is going to have some breaking news coming out of there this week. All right, let's go to the Notre Dame Texas A&M game this weekend. Maybe the best game of the weekend outside of that Tennessee game. Notre Dame hosting Texas A&M. Notre Dame 6.5 point favorite against the Aggies. I think the Aggies are a flat out really good football team. I love Marcel Reed as a player. I think he's a tremendous football player. He's a dynamic quarterback, dual threat. He is a guy that can absolutely stun some people if you don't take him seriously. Give me Texas A&M in an upset this weekend. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the upset. I'm feeling the Aggies coming on the road, pulling off a major win. Notre Dame, this seems like a do or die game for them. They've had a nice little bye week to prepare for this after losing to Miami. This is a must-win game for Notre Dame, and I think they might be a little tight. I like Marcel Reed to come in there, shock some people, little run and gun offense. Give me the Texas A&M Aggies to pull this one off. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to another amazing stream of Caden's Corner here. This is such a blessing, such an honor. Obviously, you know, I don't talk about this type of stuff too much. I think when you just have tragedies that happen in the country, I think it's just such a blessing that I'm able to talk about, sports for a living. I think at the end of the day, sports are the one thing that bring us together as a country. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to them. I love them so much. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at the tragedies that have happened this past week, I think it's important to realize what's actually important in life. And that's the relationships you have with your family, the people in your life. So I just want to remind you, if you've got something lingering with someone, like, man, just go make up with them. Like, go give them a hug, man. Tell your loved ones you love them today, because you never know when they're going to be here today, gone tomorrow. And I truly believe that. And I think that, we need to appreciate the loved ones in our lives. And I'm just so thankful that I'm able to talk about sports, because I truly believe that sports are the greatest thing in the world. I think they bring us all together as a society. Like, how fun that we can talk about a game, where a pigskin's being thrown around to kind of take our minds off of everything going on in the real world. So I'm just so appreciative and thankful that you guys tuned into the stream today. I hope you guys have a tremendous weekend. Let's enjoy 48 hours of glorious football starting tomorrow. We get some great games in college football, so many fun ranked matchups. We get a tremendous slate of NFL games on Sunday. And you guys already know I'll be back on Monday with an awesome stream. You guys have a blessed weekend, and we will see you guys on Monday. Later, guys.